is going on, everybody? Travis Fowler, Hark Rider, back once again this week for another new edition of Tights and Turnbuckles. And if you're listening or watching, you know what that means. It's time to talk pro wrestling, and we got SummerSlam to talk about because SummerSlam, that's always been referenced as the biggest party of the summer, and I actually think last night's event really held up to that moniker because the card itself, I very much am one of those people that enjoys a shorter card. And by shorter, I mean like that 5 to 7 match range, strictly because of time. And honestly, it just goes to show how important these pay-per-views can be because each match has a significant level of importance. And SummerSlam was actually not one show or match, I should say, was undeserving of being in the card, the final card. You had both women's titles were on the line, both world titles were on the line, both mid-card titles were on the line, and a grudge match was had that was actually really good. And the show overall actually even got a bit of praise from Dave Meltzer in sort of a back-ass compliment way, as he said that this was more of an angle show as opposed to a traditional wrestling type of show. In his words, it didn't have a whole lot of wrestling, but it had a lot of angles continuing, or something to that effect was how he put it. But he said he enjoyed it. He said that it didn't feel like it lagged. It didn't feel like it drug on too long. And that this particular type of angle show that he was referencing it as, I'll get it right, was actually really good. It was a good show that never felt like it was losing pace and was mapped out very well. I mean, the opening match was the beginning of the downfall of the Judgment Day as we know it. Rhea Ripley losing in the match to Liv Morgan with assistance from Dirty Dom, and then the big kiss at the end, which some of us kind of felt was coming, but it got solidified last night, and this just continues to show that they had little nuances dropping to you throughout this, as we've seen little bits of Finn and Liv talking to each other, Liv taking the room key and going to what we can assume is Liv Morgan to talk maybe more about how this was going to go down. And then this all played into later in the night, as we saw in the world title match. But before we got there, man, I gotta say, I was actually surprised that we had 4 title changes, and 4 important title changes at that. You had LA Knight finally getting the US title, Braun Breaker actually beating Sami Zayn this time around for the Intercontinental title. I gotta say, I was very shocked Nia Jax winning the women's championship. And honestly, I think I've heaped a little bit of praise on Nia already, but if I haven't, I'm going to applaud the work that Nia Jax has put in since she's come back. I, like many others, was not a Nia Jax fan during her first run. She had a handful of good matches, but overall, I just was never impressed with her as a worker. But since she has come back, she has seemingly had a complete change and honestly upgrade from her first run. She seemingly just gets it now and has had a great character rejuvenation to the point where I feel like this is deserving. I did not expect her to win. I expected Bayley to retain with a Tiffany Stratton cash in, and some still suspected that Tiffany would cash in last night, but that did not happen. So, oh, by the way, I say last night because as I'm recording, this is on Sunday evening, so SummerSlam was last night, Saturday night. But overall, it was a very decently good held match between both. Both knew their roles and played to it, and Nia Jax picking up the surprising win. Like I said, it got me, and I think it may have shocked a few others, potentially, although I did see some people's predictions say that they had Nia Jax winning as well. The grudge match between Punk and McIntyre. Man, did it really feel like just a good old-fashioned callback to Taker and Bret Hart with Shawn as the special referee from 1997. I saw a lot of people referencing that, and even kind of in the makeup of both characters, it was that way. Punk wearing the pink and black of Bret Hart, and then Drew McIntyre sporting like the cloak that Taker wore out during his entrance in 97. And of course, Rollins being the referee. There's always been comparisons to him and Shawn Michaels just in work rate alone. So it was all there, and they kind of played up to it a lot, actually, especially with the chair shot spot that didn't happen, but they were teasing it, and I thought that was great. The match itself was amazingly done. I cannot wait for the continuation of this rivalry. As I have stated during one of our 1-minute reels on TikTok, I firmly believe this match is going to carry to Bad Blood. We are going to see the finality there, and it is going to be part of the 25th anniversary of the first Hell in the Cell, as it will be, in my opinion, and should be, Punk McIntyre Hell in the Cell. And depending on what they do going forward, I still think you could make a big argument for Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley to be held in that Hell in the Cell match as well. But we've got 2 more months to go before we hit October, since Bad Blood's at the beginning of the month in October. So we'll see how things play out. Finally, the 2 world title matches. Gunter and Damian Priest, man, they had a brawl. They had a straight up brawl. And yeah, I, like many others, have to give flowers to Damian Priest, because I felt when he won the world title, no offense to him as a worker, because I've watched him since he was Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor, and I knew he could go. But for whatever reason, it didn't feel like he was a legit champion, if that made sense. But through these last couple of months especially, he's really felt like he's come into his own as a character. He came into his own as a champion, to the point where when he got the title, as Triple H liked to say, in this instance, I felt at the beginning the title was trying to make him, and by the time this title reign ended with Gunter last night, I believe he made that title feel important. And then him and Gunter put on a battle that actually was worthy of that title, and crowning a new world heavyweight champion in the ring general. But that was thanks to the interference of who he thought was his Judgment Day brethren. Again, the continuation of the downfall of the Judgment Day, at least for 2 of the members that we've grown to know. And Damian Priest getting screwed by Finn Balor. It was one of those things where, again, some people expected it. I felt like it was coming too, especially after we saw the Liv and Dom thing take place at the beginning of the show. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, or I should say tonight on Monday, since this is dropping on Monday. I really look forward to seeing how this story progresses, because now you've got Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, I think we can say, effectively out of the Judgment Day. So what does this mean? Is Liv in? Is Finn now the leader? It's obviously Dirty Dom is here, and we know JD is still here. He's one half of the tag champs with Finn. Is Carlito a full-fledged member yet? Like, how does this go? It's got a lot of great questions. That this is part of the storytelling aspect that we've come to enjoy since the regime change, and I completely am invested. I want to see what happens next. Same with McIntyre and Punk. Same with Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline story over on SmackDown. That was our main event. Solo Sikoa, who, by the way, came to play. I was very impressed. Solo held his own in the main event, and he looked like a main event star. The Bloodline rules match, we fully expected Bloodline to interfere. I actually even thought Hikuleo, or as rumors are saying, he's going to be called Tala Tonga. I really hope that just does not happen, just because, come on, the name is just laughable in its own right. But the God referenced the actual name by Michael Cole himself, the Gorillas of Destiny. That was actually said on commentary by Michael Cole. And by the way, I saw something where Jim Ross even gave Michael Cole the kudos, saying that he's doing the job better than what JR did at his prime. I'm never going to say that, as I feel like Jim Ross is part of my childhood and is my favorite announcer of all time. But also, since this regime change, Michael Cole has shown how good of a commentator he is. And I honestly will say he has shown that he is absolutely one of the all-time greats. And when he is done with his WWE career, career, every bit of the flowers that he is given on that day, if it's not done beforehand, he has earned tenfold, as he has been so entertaining. You could argue since Pat McAfee came into the broadcast team, he's just been wonderful. It's been awesome to listen to, and I honestly, from a professional standpoint, appreciate Michael Cole so much more now than what I did even way back when, but he is definitely coming to his own as the head announcer for WWE. Now, back to the subject at hand. Cody Rhodes, Solo Sikoa put on a good match. It saw the return of the OTC. Some are saying that was the one tribal chief is what that stood for. I thought it was original tribal chief, but OTC is back. Roman Reigns coming out and wrecking shop on Solo, which set up Cody to get the Crossroads in and beat Solo Sikoa, or as my little 3-year-old daughter called him, Spaghetti Head, or as I then countered back with, looks more like Ramen Noodle Head, with that hairdo he was sporting last night. My daughter cracked me up when she saw that watching the match with me. But now, what's going to happen with the Bloodline? Who is going to show up? Is Tala showing up this upcoming Friday? Hikuleo, that is. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton are obviously back up for Cody. And apparently Roman Reigns is now too. What is going to unfold? What's Roman going to say? Is he even going to be on SmackDown? I think he is. But it's going to be a very interesting few months ahead, especially heading into Survivor Series War Games. You got to imagine that a certain High Chief final boss was none too thrilled with what happened with Solo last night. Now, SummerSlam was great, but I also want to give a little bit of quick kudos to the NXT brand, because on Tuesday this past week, it was night 1 of the Great American Bash, and they had a main event of Thea Hale, Roxanne Perez, 2 young women, one of which, Roxanne, who has been an amazing champion and is an overall wonderful worker at such a young age. Thea Hale, the exact same carbon copy in my opinion, and they put on a heck of a match. Overall, the Great American Bash night 1 was actually very entertaining, and this upcoming week, I do look forward to the NXT title match with Ethan Page and Ona Mensa, I believe is his name. I know I'm totally blanking on that right now, but I've enjoyed their story overall. I just am blanking on how to pronounce his name. Oro Mensa. There we go. I knew it would come to me. But I also look forward to seeing the Rascals, or at least the MSK portion, that being formerly known as Nash Carter, once again Zachary Wentz teaming up with Wes Lee, and they are going for the tag belts. Do they actually get them back? I hope so, and it would be the first cross-promotion championship change for this NXT TNA partnership, and oh man, I honestly cannot wait to see this match, and I hope we do get new tag team champions, just because I want to see that history made, especially with the Rascals and MSK. That's what I was waiting for when this crossover began. I am so glad we're getting it, and it's been nothing short of entertaining on both TNA, Impact, as well as the NXT brand. But speaking of TNA, can we talk about the mediocre rise over the last couple months of Joe Hendry, not just in TNA, but he is legitimately, I think, going to be a guy that gets signed by WWE when his TNA contract expires. And the reason I think that is because he has come out and said that there has been an unprecedented agreement reached between both TNA officials as well as WWE, where Joe is still able to be under TNA's contract, but he trains at the Performance Center. He is featured on both shows, to the point where we had a Hendry concert this past week on Great American Bash Night 1. This upcoming Tuesday, he takes on Joe Coffey, who they've been in somewhat of an interesting feud with Gallus and whatnot. He gets a bona fide built-up match on another company's TV program. This is just unprecedented for WWE, and I am so happy that we're living in this time. And this whole partnership with TNA, I would have never thought this would have happened back in the early and late and mid 2000s and going into the 2010s. Never thought we would see this day take place. And the fact that it's happening with TNA and a couple other companies, but mainly TNA, it just does my old adolescent heart happy. And I look forward to continuing this partnership between the two companies, and hopefully we continue to see nothing but awesome things take place on both shows for both companies. And when I say that there is a potential to have a game-changing moment for WWE NXT as well as TNA still keeping a hot commodity on their show, rumoredly, the Hardys met with WWE officials just this weekend during SummerSlam. They have actually expressed that they wouldn't mind doing one more run with WWE, but specifically on the NXT brand so they could go after the NXT tag titles since they've held all the other tag titles. And if that happens, it's hard to argue that the Hardys would not be one of, if not potentially in talks for the greatest tag team that is, in professional wrestling history. Some would say it's the Road Warriors. Some, like myself, think the Dudleys actually have that kudos right now, but the Hardys could easily do it. The Steiners are in that conversation because of the multiple tag titles that have been held. I know in this day and age, you would probably even throw FTR into that conversation. But yeah, it's hard to argue against the Hardys if it gets to that point, and I hope it does. Because man, can you imagine? You get the Hardys back in WWE. We've got MSK / the Rascals right now during the cross promotion. The rumored introduction, hopefully soon, of Motor City Machine Guns to WWE's tag team roster, along with some of the other tag teams that they have currently on the main roster, as well as NXT doing pretty good for themselves as well. It's just such a great time to be a wrestling fan, and especially if you lived through the dark ages with WWE through the last 15 years or so, to see what it has become now, and me feeling like it's just become so entertaining each and every week. Fans like myself, we waited for this day, and we've earned these days, and I'm appreciating every single bit of them since the Triple H regime change, and I hope we continue to have moments that we've had already. I hope that just is beginning and continuing, and we have a lot of it to go, because this has just been very fun to be a wrestling fan so into WWE yet again. But I've also been into AEW, as they've had a great showing as of late. And I know I haven't really talked too much of backstage news on this week's episode because the in-ring product has taken more precedence this week than behind the scenes stuff. But we can't go without mentioning the MJF Britt Baker thing. Whatever this is, the details are still scarce, but all we know is there was a confrontation thanks to Alicia Tout going and talking with her very openly boyfriend, MJF, causing him to burst into the women's locker room, which people have called into question, but it is what it is, and apparently punching either a locker or a wall, whatever the case may have been, but it resulted in Britt getting suspended and fined for an undisclosed amount, as well as an undisclosed amount of time. This also comes out as Adam Cole was apparently moving back to Pennsylvania alone, which he had been residing in Florida with Britt Baker, who is a practicing dentist and has her practice there. If she's staying there and he's going back, and they've been in a relationship for several years now, people have questioned what's going on there. Not my business to speculate, nor am I going to, but that's just what's been out there recently. But the in-ring product with AEW has been absolutely stellar. They're heading towards All In. The Mariah May and Toni Storm feud has been amazing. I love it. I'm looking forward to that match, as both women are going to put on a barnstormer, no doubt about it. I do think MJF Will Ospreay 2 is also going to deliver, as well as the AEW World Title match, which had some interesting tidbits put into it this past week. Bryan Danielson, Swerve Strickland for the AEW Championship goes down in London. This upcoming Wednesday, we're actually going to get Bryan Danielson versus Jeff Jarrett, which actually should be a really good matchup. But here's the caveat that we found out for this Danielson Swerve match coming up at All In. It is now going to be title versus career. That's right. Bryan Danielson has officially said if he loses this match, he is done wrestling, period. Not just on a part-time or full-time basis. He is done. And that has put some serious stakes up for this match with Swerve. Swerve has been a great champion, and I think him and Danielson are going to put on a fantastic matchup. And honestly, because there had been so much news made out of Danielson retiring from full-time competition after this final year in his professional wrestling career as a full-time competitor, everybody speculated that he would still be part-time wrestling. But maybe that's not the direction he wants to go with his life. Either way, I very much look forward to seeing how this match plays out. I look forward to seeing what the end result is, especially because I kind of don't know if I'm ready for Danielson to hang it up, period. I kind of wonder, are they going to put the title on him and give him like a kind of a small little swan song farewell, similar to what they did with Sting during the build up to his final match earlier this year? I don't know. This really does bring a lot of questions up, and I look forward to seeing how those questions get answered. Like I said, this week's episode really didn't have a whole lot of backstage drama to really talk about outside of the couple tidbits that we did. I really love that we were able to focus mainly on the in-ring side of things. SummerSlam was great. NXT Great American Bash was great. AEW's doing great heading into All In with their main stories and focus. I just love professional wrestling right now, and everybody should feel the same way. It doesn't matter if you like AEW or WWE, one more than the other. You can also be like me and love both of them equally for what they are. Because overall, if every wrestling company is doing well, that means that the business is doing well. So this is an unprecedented time, a time that we haven't even fully seen really since the Attitude Era, the success of that era of wrestling. This is just destroying it tenfold, and I'm here for every bit of it, and I can't wait to see what happens next. But guys, that's going to wrap us up for this week. What was your favorite part of SummerSlam? Sound off in those comments below. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media sites. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and on TikTok. And you can follow me personally on X at Travis_T&T with the and spelled out. And of course, I will be back next week to talk more pro wrestling. Maybe we'll have some drama to talk about. Maybe we'll just continue to talk about the in-ring drama. I kind of hope for the latter as opposed to the former. But until that time, y'all have a wonderful week ahead and just continue to love pro wrestling.